Right, so in this video I'm going to show you how to find surface area of rectangular prisms. So we talked about in class how a rectangular prism is made up of 6 rectangles. Okay, now when we're looking at the rectangular prism, we only really care about 3 of our rectangles because of those 6 rectangles, I have 3 groups of rectangles where some of them are equal to one another. So if you think about like a rectangular prism you might have in your house, like a Kleenex box or a cereal box, the front and the back are the same rectangle. If you look at the front of it and then you flip it around and you look at the back, it's the same size. The left side and the right side are the same rectangle, and the top and the bottom are the same rectangle. So I have 3 different groups of rectangles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the area of 1 from each group. So when we draw them in 3D like this, I've got my front and I've got my side and I've got my top view. So I'm going to start by looking at the front. So if I look at this rectangle on the front and I think about coloring it in blue, this rectangle now has a dimension across the bottom of 5, and then going up here is a dimension of 2. So if I think about my front, the front is going to have dimension 5 times 2, and that gives me 10 centimeters squared. Now with this one, because my front and then my back is the same, if I want just the front, it's 10, but if I want the back as well, I can multiply my answer by 2 because I'm going to have 2 of the same rectangle, one on the front, one on the back. When I look at my side, this one right here, so we'll color it in green. I've got a dimension of 4 across the bottom here, so 4 across the bottom and 2 going up the side. So my right hand side, and I might want to say right hand side, is 4 by 2, and that gives me 8 centimeters squared. But I also have the left side is exactly the same, so I'm going to multiply that one by 2, and I know that the left and right side together are 16 centimeters squared. The last side that I need to look at is my top. So the top here has dimensions going across the bottom of it like this of 5, and this dimension going up that way is 4. So my dimensions are 5 and 4 for the top. So I'm going to go 5 times 4, and that gives me 20 centimeters squared. And again, the top and the bottom are exactly the same rectangle. So I'm going to multiply by 2 because I have 2 copies of the same thing. When I go to find my total, I need to add my front and my back, the left side and the right side, and the top and the bottom. Well, I've already got the front and the back. I know that dimension together, both of them, is 20 centimeters squared. I already know my left and right side together, they are 16 centimeters squared. And I already know my top and bottom together because together they are 40 centimeters squared. Adding all 3 of those dimensions together gives us 76 centimeters squared. Okay, it makes it really easy. In grade 9, we're going to talk about the rectangular prism is stuck to something, so we won't include one of the sides. Well, it's very easy now to adjust. If the back was attached to something and I wasn't going to include it, it's very easy to just not multiply it by 2 and only look at 10 centimeters for the front. But you'll do more with that in grade 9. Okay, here we go. Find the surface area again. So I'm going to look at the front. The front is dimensions 3 by 10. 3 by 10. So the front, I'm going to have 3 times 10, and that gives me 30. And if I want the back as well, then I need to multiply that 30 by 2 to get 60 centimeters squared. Then I'm going to look at the side. Here's the side. 15 by 10. So the left, or that's the right hand side, sorry. Important to know your right from your left. The right hand side is 15 times 10, and that's 150. But if I also want the left side as well, I need to multiply that by 2 to give me 300 centimeters squared. And then the top. The top here has dimensions of 3 and 15. So I'm going to go, the top is 3 times 15, and that's 45. But again, if I also want the bottom, I need to multiply by 2 to get 90 centimeters squared. In total, I'm going to add my 60, because that's the front and the back. I'm going to add my 300, because that's the right and the left side. And I'm going to add my 90, because that's the top and the bottom. And altogether, that's 450 centimeters squared. Okay, so find the area of each rectangle, multiply each rectangle by 2. Now you might get tempted as you see some tricks that you think, oh, I might want to take a shortcut here. And I could take a shortcut because I've got 7 and 7. But some of you are trying to take the shortcut and then you're getting it wrong. So just keep focusing on finding the front. The front area here is 7 by 2. Okay, so I'm going to go 7 times 2. That gives me an area of 14, but I need the back as well. So I'm going to times the 14 by 2, and I get 28 centimeters squared. I'm going to find the right side. The right side, well, it happens to be the same as my front. So instead of trying to do a shortcut, just know you've already done the calculation, so you don't have to work that hard. It should be exactly the same as the front and the back. It happens again. And then on the top, I've got 7 and 7. So the top, we've got 7 times 7, and that's 49. But when we want to include the bottom as well, multiply by 2, and that gives us 98 centimeters squared. Adding everything all up for the total, I've got my 28 plus another 28 plus my 98. I still have my 3 groups of things: front and back, left and right side, top and bottom. Don't try and shortcut it. You're not actually saving yourself that much work. There's no reason to get something wrong because you're trying to just do it faster. Okay, and let's see, adding everything all together here, so that's 56, so that's 154 centimeters squared. Okay, now you might see that there are dimensions given if you watch other videos. So when we draw a rectangular prism, we label it as a length and width and height. And I've tried to still give you the same colors. The front you do in blue, and the front is going to end up being the length times the height. The length times the height. The side ends up being the width times the height, so the width times the height. And the top is then the length and the width. Each one is multiplied by 2 because not only do I have the front, but I have the back as well, and the right side and the left side, and then the top and the bottom, and we add everything all together. So you might see some complex formulas that are something like 2 times length times height plus 2 times length times width plus 2 times width times height, and it's just too complicated. Don't try and work with the formula. Think about what a rectangular prism is represented by, what shapes make it up, what shapes are congruent or the same as one another, and work with it that way. It's so much simpler and easier to change your formula around as we start asking you harder surface area questions in the next few years.